Hello, Rich Dad Insiders, and I'm reading this question about what's in the news. And people say, do I believe what's in the news, And I'll just give you my answer to it. And the answer is no. I really don't believe much of what I read in the news, especially for the general public. And the reason I got skeptical on the news was back in Vietnam between 1972 and 1973. I would be fighting in these battles. Then a few days later, in the Stars and Stripes, the military newspaper, or in the New York Times, I'd be reading about the same battle I was in. But it wasn't what happened. I mean, I was there. I saw the battles. I was there. I saw what happened. But what was reported wasn't truth. And that's when I became very, very skeptical about we, especially as Americans, see in the news. Because you know that if President Obama spoke the way I spoke, this whole economy would come to a crash. President Obama his job is to keep our spirits up. The newspapers are doing their best to keep your spirits up also. Well, I don't have to do that. It's not my job. My job is to call it as I see it, call the news as I see it. So personally, it's not that I think Obama is a liar. He just can't afford to tell you the truth. Neither can most of our politicians afford to tell you the truth, because if they spoke the way I spoke, the whole place would come apart. And that's the difference here. So the news is really dependent upon who is saying it. So please remember this. Most reporters, they can't say really the truth because they can't make predictions, because if they're wrong, they'll lose their job. I don't care. I can make my predictions, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So what? But other people can't afford to. So a lot of what people consider the news is really dependent upon who is saying it and what their motivations are. So when our leaders are saying, oh, the economy is getting better and green shoots are appearing and all this, meanwhile jobless keeps going up, they can't say that. They have to tell you what they want you to hear, because they can't afford to have this panic and all that. So my answer to all of you is the news is dependent upon who's saying it. And that's the way you should take the news. Personally, I think it's getting horrible. When you look at my Yahoo Finance article on 2010 and the amount of money the U.S. government's printing and why gold is going up in price and all this, I see it as absolutely horrible for the average person. For the people making less than, let's say, $1 million a year, they're just going to pay more taxes. They're going to get greater in debt, and they have more inflation, and they can't save money because the value of their savings will keep going down. It'll be a horrible time for most people. But the president can't say that. I can say that. On the other side of it, even though it's horrible, it's going to be great for me, because I'm not deluded by what I hear about in the news. I can call it as I see it. You see, there's some people who are optimists, and they can only see the good things, and some people are only pessimists. But in reality, to be successful, you must be both. You must be an optimist and a pessimist, which makes you a realist. So if you're going to be a realist, you're going to know this about the news. Next year is going to be horrible for millions and millions of people. Taxes will go up because state governments have to keep raising taxes. Our debt's going to increase. Joblessness will continue to increase. Number of people on welfare will increase. So it's going to be horrible news for millions of people, but it doesn't have to be horrible news for you. It depends upon how you see the world. Can you see it objectively, both optimistically and pessimistically, which makes it realistically? Are you going to take matters in your own hands? Are you going to hope that Obama or some politician is going to save you? It depends upon you, who's giving the news, and what you think is good news and bad news to you. To me, bad news is great news, because I know how to take bad news and turn it into good news and turn a profit at it. So those are some of the differences. 2009 has been a fantastic year. Been a hard year, but I have never made so much money in a bad economy. And 2010, I expect to make even more. As commercial real estate begins to collapse and gold goes up, I will get richer. For those of people who lose their jobs, are looking for a job, or lose their houses, it'll be a terrible year. So, again, it's up to you. News is who reports it, and what you determine as good news or bad news. So thank you for the questions.